And we're back, cooking with Grandma, Easter Bunny pancakes. Don't forget to hydrate. So while we are making our batter, the very first thing we want to do is plug in our griddle. If you're not allowed to use a griddle, because it'll be hot, you need to get Mom to help you with that part, but I'm just going to plug in my griddle. Because you want to make sure that it's
pull the
nice
whole
and
table.
hot. We had to move the table. And my griddle is old, so I'm putting it on the highest heat to make sure it's nice and hot. We'll just let it sit there and let it heat up while we make our batter. You need to check with Mom on your griddle and what setting it needs to be on for pancakes. She'll know. So, our measuring cup. This measuring cup holds 8 cups. I'm going to put in 4 cups of milk. This is going to be a big batch of pancakes so that you have enough to make for your whole family. If you have too many leftovers, cook them all up, put them in the freezer, and then you can just pop them in the toaster later. 4 cups of milk, 1 egg. Remember what I showed you last time? I'm not going to do it because I've been cracking eggs for over 50 years. But you should crack your egg into a bowl first to make sure that there's no shell in it. 1 egg cracked and put into your milk. And just take your whisk.
Why do you use the big whisk?
Because I like this better, Grandpa, that's why. Take your whisk and just lightly beat that in. Now, Grandma's been making pancakes for a lot of years, and I no longer use a recipe. I don't think your mums do either. So I'm not going to give you exactly number of cups, but we're just going to start adding some flour in here, and we're going to stir it around, and I'm going to show you about how thick it should be when you have enough flour in there. So I just have a scoop. You can use a measuring cup, a 1 cup measuring cup, and I would say put in 3 cups of flour to start in your 1 cup measuring cup. And then mix it in, and we'll see how it looks. If it's not exactly the same as mine, you remember what I said last time with baking. Baking and cooking with Grandma is not an exact science. So I've got some flour in here. Mix it gently. You don't need to have it like beat all very smooth. And also if you're not mixing gently, then you're going to poof your flour all over the place. So that's not enough flour. It's still pretty runny. I'm going to add some more in. So if you've added 3 cups, you might want to add maybe 1 or 2 more. Moms can help you with this. If it's not exact, it doesn't matter. All right. Grandpa's laughing. Grandpa likes pancakes. It's a good thing. You can see when you're mixing, it kind of globs onto your whisk. That's okay. As you mix it around, it's going to get a little smoother. All right, so Grandpa, if you want to come in here and zoom in on the batter, you can see that it's starting to get fairly thick. I'm going to add just a teensy bit more milk because I want it a little lighter so that your pancakes are fluffy.
Don't forget the baking powder.
I won't forget the baking powder. That's after I have everything.
Okay.
Okay. So you can see it's kind of like a thick, runny soup. Something like that. So in the batter so far, 4 cups of milk, 1 egg, a whole bunch of flour, till it kind of looks like that. All right, baking powder. Baking powder makes your pancakes fluffy. I need a spoon. I like to add quite a good amount of baking powder so that they are fluffy, because if you don't, your pancakes are going to not rise very well and they're gonna be dense, which means heavy and sort of thick, okay?
And not taste very good.
So I am putting in 1 tablespoon of baking powder and 1 teaspoon. Now with baking powder, you need to make sure that it is mixed in pretty well, because otherwise you're gonna end up with some baking powder in a clump. If your baking powder happens to be a bit lumpy, make sure you're breaking up the clumps first. And we're gonna mix that all in. And that is great. You can see it's still runny, but what's gonna happen is as it sits here, the baking powder is gonna start to work. I don't know the science behind it, but it's gonna start to work in there, and it's gonna start to bubble up your batter and make it a little lighter. So while we're waiting for that to happen, and you don't necessarily need to wait for that to happen a whole lot, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spray my griddle. You may not need to spray your griddle because it might be a newer griddle that still has a good finish on it. But whenever I use my griddle, I spray it lightly the first time.
You can also use butter if you want to instead of spray.
Butter will burn quicker. All right, so Grandpa, come have a look and show them. You can see that the batter is starting to get a little bubbly in here. And that is the baking powder working. So I don't need my little whisk anymore. Now we're gonna go over to our picture on the computer.
How big can these files get?
Why, how big is it?
Well, we're at 7 minutes now.
Okay. We're gonna take a break so we can have another video come in case it gets too big. So we'll see you in a minute, and then we'll have a look at what we need to do.